Hello all, this is Halloween. Today we will be visiting the Tiger Flowers Cemetery, named for Theodore Flowers, the famous boxer. It was established in 1886 and it is a all African American cemetery as well. I thought since it's Black History Month, let's do it up. Enjoy! Hello all, I am here at the Tiger Flowers Historic Cemetery, a well-known African American cemetery here in Lakeland. The cemetery was established in 1886 and is the final resting place for some of Lakeland's early settlers and business and civic leaders. The Tiger Flowers Cemetery was named for Theodore Flowers. He was a famous boxer, and ironically enough, he's not buried here. He's buried in the Lincoln Cemetery in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's go in and see what we can see. A common thing you're going to see upon walking into any of the African American cemeteries is that when you walk in, the heads are actually facing, or the headstones are actually facing away from you as you walk in. So it kind of seems backwards. So when you walk in, you're not seeing the front of the headstones, you're seeing the back of the headstones. And a lot of them I've found are set up that way, especially in the African American cemeteries. Primarily, actually, in the African American cemeteries. So we'll take a look around and see what we can see. Another thing to take notice of when you're in the African American cemeteries is that they most commonly use these burial vaults. Concrete burial vaults is like the #1 style of burial that they use. I find that to be pretty interesting. It's not a very big cemetery. There's only 1,037 burials on record here. And like a lot of the African American cemeteries as well, it has also in the past been poorly managed, and they've had problems with record keeping and things like that. So it probably is pretty safe to say that there may be some unmarked graves here. And they go back pretty far. Some of the headstones are pretty old. These are all pretty much newer, it looks like. I could not find the exact acreage of this cemetery, but it's not very big in comparison to a lot of the ones that I've been to. This one is pretty small. I'd say it's about the same size as Roselawn Cemetery. So pretty small. Here are some of the older headstones, it looks like. And they're a little harder to read. I think it says 1924 to 1995 there. So, not that old. This one is very simple and looks like hand carved, hand etched in cement. Luna Mae Calhoun, born November 13th, 1915, died in March of 1942. So that one's pretty old looking. Very vague. Again, you'll see that some of them are pretty vague. Here we have a veteran of World War II. You're going to see a lot of vets here as well. I've noticed that in a lot of the African American cemeteries that there are quite a lot of vets. So that's kind of cool. I see an old one over here. Hattie James. Now here's an old one, born in 1865, died in 1925. Dear mother. Here we have a Tommy Lee. Tommy Lee Stevenson, passed in 1957. So as you can see, there are a lot of older burials here. I mean, it was established in 1886, so you're going to run into some older headstones. I've reached the walkway, the pathway here, and you can see that the whole cemetery is just not really big at all. You look both ways, you can see it all. You could probably walk the entire cemetery in about half an hour. And if you were looking for someone specific, you may just be able to find them here. So, of course, there's a lot of wind right now, so hopefully you can hear me. But this I thought was cool. This is kind of in the middle of the cemetery. Looks to be a family plot. But if you'll notice, I am standing more towards the front of the cemetery. How I told you that the headstones are actually not going to be facing you as you're walking in. There are some that do, but most do not. And I heard it had something to do with the way of the sunset. Sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So I heard it had something to do with that when I was looking it up one time. But it's very popular and very common in the African American cemeteries. If I go inside, I can see the front. So this is actually a very nice little family plot here. And it's nice to see that regardless of its past history of not being very well maintained, that in recent years somebody has come in and done the work and got it cleaned up, and it looks very nice today. So this would be a very nice cemetery to come and visit if you have the opportunity. If you want to see a cool cemetery, I think it's pretty cool. There's a lot of older headstones here, and lots and lots of war heroes and veterans. So father and mother, and then over here it just has daddy, mother. Pretty cool. I like it. Maybe a little shade though would be nice, but that's the thing about this one. There's not going to be a lot of shade, so if you're out walking around, you know, dress appropriately because it's going to be probably pretty warm. You can see here I'm on the other side of the cemetery. Very beautiful, well kept, you know. So looks very together. Like we've been to some cemeteries where there didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. This one seems very well put together. The family plots are the family plots and so on, but there's some different looking burials, and there's some pretty nice monuments in here as well. So if you're into that. It's just me in the cemetery right now, all by my lonesome. Nobody's here, so and it's a nice day, it's breezy. I'm approaching another, looks like a family plot. It's all blocked off. This one looks to have some baby burials in it. Very neat, looking like a scroll on the top. There's some baby burials there. That's kind of different with the scroll on the top. And there are many like that in this family plot. There's just a little gate, little fenced area here. But it's well kept. Very nice. Another baby in the family lost a lot of babies in their family. So I just walked across the street. Across the street is Tiger Flowers and Lakeview. And I'm here now at the Roselawn Cemetery. So I guess because they're all connected, that's why they were all established the same year, 1886. So we're gonna take a look around and see what we can see over here. This is something I've never seen before. A bullet hole in a mausoleum. Or what appears to be a bullet hole. We're gonna go over here. It looks like they have a niche. Just walking. Now this is in the Roselawn section of the cemetery. And this one is actually, I think there's even more burials here than across the street. A lot of newer burials, but still a lot of the older ones as well. Look at this beautiful, what appears to be a niche. Large building right at the end of the cemetery. On the Roselawn side, there are 4,400 burials. So this side is quite a bit bigger than the other side of the cemetery. As I walk closer to the entrance, it appears it's not a niche at all. It's a chapel. There's a large piece of stained glass on the back wall. It must be where you can come and have services for your loved ones. Pennies have been left here, so I don't know. Oh my goodness. I think it's a mausoleum because there's burials along the walls. This is probably the biggest mausoleum I've ever seen. For sure. I mean, look at it. It's bigger than my house. Damn. No names on the outside or anything. The names are on the inside. It's locked, you know, it's not open. That is wild. So, Yeah, must be some people that had some money, because this wasn't cheap, that's for sure. A lot of beautiful stained glass you'll see here on the sides. Just a huge mausoleum. Wow. That's the way to go, guys. That's the way to go right there. Just a huge building. Very cool. So I'm gonna start making my way back. I'm gonna take some still shots of some interesting or unique monuments I may see along the way. Yeah, it goes way back there. So it's pretty large, actually. It's like the size of 2 or 3 Oaklawn cemeteries. So still not huge, but definitely very large. Looks like there's even more back here. It's like the cemetery that never ends. Every time you think you've hit it all, you find more. So I don't know, it may be bigger than I even think, because I'm seeing more now back there, just beyond this cemetery. So be prepared to do a little walking if you come here. Now, mind you, it's more than one cemetery all in one place. So if you're just walking around one, it might not be that much walking, but if you want to hit them all, be prepared. And as usual, I left my water in the car, so it's awesome. Here's one that I was actually looking for. He was once governor of Florida, and his name was Park Trammell. He has, that's his wife. So, Virginia Darby Trammell. This is the cherished resting place of Park Trammell, beloved husband of Beatrice Trammell. After serving his state with the highest honor and distinction as Attorney General, Governor, and United States Senator, he passed from this life May 8th, 1936. Trusted and loved by all who knew him, he was good, kind, and generous all the days of his life. His soul now rests with God, in whom he believed. Let him who has won it bear the palm. Just beautiful. And he is actually, when you look up the Roselawn Cemetery, he's one of the more famous people buried in here. So very awesome to find. He's actually a native of Alabama, but he moved here when he was young and started a citrus business. Well, he didn't, but his parents started a citrus business here in Florida. Now, his father was very active as well in politics, so he naturally kind of followed in his father's footsteps. So very cool to see him. I'm always excited to find somebody that I was learning about ahead of time, and I actually did. I found him, which is fantastic because this is a pretty big cemetery. This was his wife, Virginia Darby Trammell, and it just says she was a devoted, loving, and sweet wife. Her greatest joy was in doing good and making others happy. Each day of her life was consecrated to God and his service. Asleep in Jesus. Blessed sleep. He had 2 wives anyway. They're both buried here, right next to him. And pretty cool thing to see. I love it. So if you want to find the governor, if you walk along the right wall of the cemetery, you will see him along the right hand wall. He's right up against the gate. So if you do want to come visit the governor, I just want to let you know where he is, because it can be tricky sometimes to find certain grave sites in such large cemeteries. So I just wanted to let you know kind of where he is. So I'm right here, I'm looking at the street. He's over there to the right hand side. So I'm headed out of the Roselawn section of the cemetery. I'm actually parked across the street in the Tiger Flowers Cemetery. Looks like we have somebody over there now. It's not just me anymore. I'm headed out of the cemetery because I'm getting hangry. Evidently the burial vaults, or as I usually call them, capsule style burials, are in the African American section of the cemetery. So it's very popular. When you get over to Roselawn, you don't see that as much. You see a few, but not as many. So there's a lot of them over here. And I'm pretty hungry, so I'm gonna go get a bite to eat. I'm here at the Strawberry Hut in Lakeland. I've always wanted to come here, but didn't know it was in Lakeland, so we can go for the first time together. Let's go have a bite to eat. I'm back from the cemetery. As you will notice in the footage, the cemetery ended up being 3 cemeteries all in one. So you had the Lakeview Cemetery, the Tiger Flowers Cemetery, and then the Roselawn Cemetery. And they're all kind of connected, you know, as one. So you don't know where one stops and another begins. So if you do go out there hoping to go to one, you're going to end up stumbling upon all of them, which explains why they were all established in 1886. It was a good cemetery. It had a huge mausoleum. I thought it was a niche, but once I approached it, it was not. I looked in the windows. There were burials on the walls. It was a mausoleum. Not really burials, but you know, the above ground tombs, I should say. But that was quite interesting because I really have never seen one that big before. It was huge. It was bigger than my house, practically. So, but very beautiful. It's a nicely kept cemetery. Not a whole lot of really neat headstones. I ran across a few. I took pictures of all the ones I ran across. Most of them are going to be the capsule style burials or the burial vault style in the segregated or African American area. It really isn't blocked off from becoming the Lakeview Cemetery. So there's no fence or anything that's segregating that section. You can kind of tell just because of the way the headstones are facing away and because of the burial vault style burials. Anyway, it was a cool cemetery. It's hot. There's not a lot of shade. So if you're going there, it is a bit of walking. So make sure you're taking your water, you're wearing comfortable shoes, and I'll see you next time.